I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. Turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. Dum beat. Turtle. 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 I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. Turtle. I like turtles. 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 Turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles. I like turtles.
All right, what's up, Turtle Riders? How's everybody doing tonight? All right.
And gum.
What the hell was that?
Relieve sensitivity and improves
What?
gum
Get out of
health.
here. Okay. All right, what's up, guys? Let me go ahead right now, and I'm going to change my mic setting here. Audio. There we go. All right, guys, what's up, Turtle Riders? Hopefully everybody's good. Why don't you guys go ahead? I just shared the links to this stream on the Clarence Woods Emerson Facebook page, the Turtleboy Sports Facebook page, and the Uncle Turtleboy Facebook page. All of them are active for now. Knock on wood, it's probably not going to last very long, but go on there and share it up. Let people know we're live. I've shared it on Twitter. I haven't had the suck any dick for Twitter followers lately. I gained like a couple hundred in the last few days because the content's been on fire. Turns out that's all you really have to do. People start sharing you. So go ahead and follow me on Twitter if you haven't already, at Dr. Turtleboy or at Turtleboy Phone. I have two accounts, one for my phone, one for my computer. So go ahead and follow both of those accounts. I actually post a lot more on Twitter than I do on Facebook, because Facebook, you don't want to boggle everybody down with a million posts, every thought that goes through your head. People, that's how you lose followers on Facebook. That's how you become your annoying aunt. So I use Twitter for that instead. So if you're into that sort of thing, get at me on Twitter. It's actually kind of more fun on Twitter. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Get to engage with more people and stuff like that. There's more trolls to make fun of and destroy. But anyway, that's that. All right. So, am I forgetting anything else? Yeah, that's about it. All right. So what we're going to talk about tonight, I'm going to talk some more. I'm not letting the Mikayla Miller story die down. Are you guys sick of the story yet? Because I'm not. To me, it's just heating up. As long as Monica Cannon Grant's still talking about it, I'm still talking about it. And this bitch will not stop talking about it. Like, check out her Facebook page today. Look, what's she posting over here? Let me see. Share screen. Let's go with this one. Yeah. So, like, she's posting away. She's saying, proud that Violence in Boston hosted and organized this conversation back on June 3rd, 2020. As we approach the 1 year mark, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and Senator Elizabeth Warren are bringing back the Andrew Curse Act. So it just goes to show you, right, that like Monica Cannon Grant is not some like nobody. Like, she meets with powerful people. Elizabeth Warren ran for president of the United States. Like, Ayanna Pressley, well-known squad member. That's who she gets meetings with. And she influences them enough that they like propose legislation. I don't know what this act is, but it's probably really bad if it was Monica Cannon Grant's idea, and Elizabeth Warren and Ayanna Pressley were like, yeah, sign me up for whatever the hell that is. I'm for it. It's probably something really anti-police, I'm guessing, but I would vote no, just whatever. So anyway, she's also been posting about, this is her new update today. huge shout out to Talib Kweli for uplifting and posting about Mikayla. Thank you. Okay, do you guys remember Talib Kweli? Do you guys remember Talib? Talib sued me, and Talib is a washed-up rapper who, I don't know, I got into some tweet beef with him in like 2017, and he started sharing articles about how, you know, the usual stuff. Turtleboy is sexual harassment or whatever the hell things they make up. Can't even keep track. But anyway, you know, I think I went at it with him, and I said something. I found this. He was sharing those old Buffalo Bruises articles. The one that made me who I am today. Thank you, James Krieger. Those Buffalo Bruises articles, whatever it was called. And they said that I was like, sexually harassed a girl or something like that. That's how I lost the job. It was all made up. The website no longer exists. It was taken down in a libel lawsuit. Because that's what James Krieger does. He just makes shit up. And by the way, James Krieger reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and he said he wanted to come on the show. But then because he wanted to like blast me or something like that. I don't know. I have nothing against James. I've always told him that. I'm like, dude, you are the reason I'm here today. Without James Krieger, there's no Turtleboy as you know it. Like, you wrote that blog about me in 2014 that was completely made up, but it caused such a stir at Shepherd Hill that, you know, it put them in a position where they kind of had a choice to make about like what to do with me, because they wanted me gone, but they couldn't get rid of me because I hadn't done anything wrong. And so they basically offered me a buyout. They offered me money to leave, and I took it, and I never looked back. And it was one of the greatest decisions of my life, although I do kind of miss some aspects of teaching, but I think it worked out at the end. Don't you? I got to meet all you people. So anyway, he shared that article. Talib Kweli did, and I found an article online from a website called buffalobruisers.com.wordpress.com. I don't know who wrote this article, but in the article, Talib Kweli was accused of being a child molester. Like, so they like had sex with like a 12-year-old girl at the club. Yeah. Now, I don't know if it was true or not, but it was on the internet on a WordPress site called buffalobruisers.wordpress.com. So if it's out there, he's sharing articles about me from a site called buffalobruisers.com. Who knows if that's true? I don't know. I guess that's what we do. We just share things. I don't know who wrote that article. I don't know who put that out there, but it was on the internet, so it must be true. And I shared it. And then his ass sued me. Thank you, 7-pounder. Oh, yeah. Thank you for the dono. Yeah, of course, if you guys would like to, if you want to support the program and what we do, there's a little casting button there. That's called a super chat, and you get a nice little color like 7-pounder did there. And you can write a funny thing, and it comes up bigger. It's like a billboard kind of. So we're banned from PayPal, so that's what we do now. And that's okay, because I like being banned from things. But anyway, he sued me over it. And it was in like Queens Court or something like that, somewhere in New York. I just didn't go. I just completely ignored it. And he didn't show up either. So that was the end of that. He was interviewed. He's a complete lunatic. He had like 1.1 million Twitter followers when I went at it with him. And then last year he reemerged and he started going after the Kirk Minahan and Steve Robinson and the Minifans. And he still had 1 million. He hadn't grown one bit. It was weird. And you look at his timeline, and all his tweets get like no engagement because he tweets 5,000 times a day, and all he does is call people racist. That's all this guy does. He was mad at me because I tweeted at him. I said, Talib Kweli, your kids wish their dad was Drake. They don't even know what music you make. Your music is old. I listened to it I listened to one song by you. I couldn't even tell you more than that. You're washed up. You're nobody. And he didn't like that. So anyway, he ended up getting kicked off of Twitter. I don't know what the hell for. You got to be bad to be a leftist and get kicked off Twitter. But apparently he's on Instagram now. And this is what Monica's got going for him. Talib Kweli shockingly believes the Mikayla Miller story. What'd he say? We demand justice from Mikayla Miller, a 16-year-old black teenager found dead, tied to a tree with a leather belt, her mother's leather belt, after being jumped by 5 white teens earlier that day. Mikayla's family does not trust the official police report. Neither do I. Shocking. Shocking, I tell you. So, yeah, that's what she's left with now is Talib Kweli. Anyway, what I'm going to show you now is a little video here. And before we do that, so there's a woman named Tamika Mallory who is a co-founder of the Women's March. You recall the Women's March that founded in 2017 in reaction to Donald Trump. They were not happy about Trump. They weren't willing to give him a chance. And they decided they were going to spend the next 4 years complaining about him. And it kind of worked. But she's the co-founder of this. And she ends up getting kicked out along with Linda Sarsour because they're a little bit anti-Semitic. They don't really care for the Jews very much. Let me show you. Hold on. Let me show you a quick little video of this broad. She's a real gem. This one. I call her like a fuckable version of Monica Cannon-Grant. I mean, she's not bad looking. I could be perfectly honest, but not my cup of tea. There she is. Yeah. So Tamika, is this the right one? Yeah, there she is. She is a little bit anti-Semitic. Right. And so she got kicked out of there because she supports Louis Farrakhan, who called Jews cockroaches and stuff like that. Yeah. And this is a speech she gave after, and I think I might have shown this speech before. It's one of the most like just the tone of her voice. I'm like, Jesus, what a cunt this woman is. Good Lord. She gives this speech after the district attorney from Louisville, a man named Daniel Cameron. Daniel Cameron is black and he's a Republican. And so they hate him. They hate conservative Black Lives Matter. I say that for a reason because they are hated in leftist circles. Oh boy. And so Daniel Cameron decided that there was not enough evidence to lynch these 3 police officers from Louisville Police Department who shot and killed Breonna Taylor after they were fired upon. One of whom was actually shot. Officer Mattingly, Detective Mattingly, was shot by her boyfriend. And so they started kind of like Wild West shooting into her apartment, and he lived. The guy that shot the cop lived, but she perished. So they said that she was sleeping in bed. She was not. She was walking around. And it's a tragic situation when anybody dies, I guess. I mean, like she wasn't like a criminal or anything. But, you know, she put herself in a dangerous situation for sure. Like she associated regularly with drug dealers. Her house was I don't know if it was like a stash house or like the bank, but she was definitely going to jails a lot and like just dealing with shady people that the police were watching. Let's just put it that way. And so they got a warrant from a judge to do a raid at her house. They raid the house, and Tamika, and Breonna Taylor dies. Okay, it is what it is. It's not good, but it's not like they were fired upon and they started shooting back. So that sucks, right? But what are you going to charge those officers with? Like, what crime did they commit? One of them got like a small slap on the wrist kind of charge. She's not in any danger of going to jail, I don't think, or anything like that. But there was nothing Daniel Cameron could do because these mobs, these BLM mobs, I've always said this, they say no justice, no peace, but they don't understand what justice is. Sometimes justice means you lose. You don't get your way. And, you know, if the district attorney determines that I don't have a winnable case here, but he looks it over, right? I mean, and then that's justice, a form of justice, right? Like he looked it over, he took it seriously, but he's like, I'm not going to bring this forward if I can't convict, because we've seen this happen in cities before. The most obvious, thank you, Bridget Manning, appreciate that. The most obvious was Freddie Gray in 2015 when those 6 officers took him for a quote unquote rough ride, the drug dealer, and he ended up dying. And Marilyn Mosby, the district attorney from Baltimore City, announced that she was indicting 6 cops, like 2 of whom just like arrested him and brought him to the freaking paddy wagon. 3 of the cops were black, by the way. And they all, after like 3 of them were found like, or had their cases dismissed, they just all were dismissed. Like 3 of them didn't even make it to trial. And Marilyn Mosby, the district attorney, announced that I think her famous line was, "We heard your call for no justice, no peace, and we're indicting these guys, or we're charging them." So basically what she was saying there was that, well, you guys demanded, it's like with Jesus and Pontius Pilate. It's like the mob's like, "We want kill Jesus." And they're like, "Yeah, fuck him." Okay, the mob asked for it, so I got to give him what the mob wants. I guess that's how law and order works in Baltimore. I don't know. And that's why it's so shitty there. But Daniel Cameron wasn't going to let that happen in Louisville. And he's black. And so Tamika Mallory finds this quite offensive. She's like Monica kind of on steroids. So let's play this tape here. Just listen to the tone of her voice in this video. Can you guys hear this, first of all?
He mentioned at the press conference, which I thought was quite interesting, that he's a black man. And as I laid and cried and hurt for Tamika Palmer and for Breonna Taylor and for Kenny Walker and for Janiyah, who we need to love up on, as I laid there and I thought about him saying he's a black man, I thought about the ships that went into Fort Monroe and Jamestown with our people on them over 400
Can you guys see
years
that?
ago. And how there were also black men on those ships that were responsible for bringing our people over here. Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that sold our people into slavery.
What did you say?
And
Wait.
helped
Wait, what?
white men to capture our bringing our people over here. Daniel Cameron is no different than the sellout Negroes that
Oh, is that
sold
low?
our
Can you
people
guys barely hear that? How's the volume? We can't hear. Okay. I've never even heard that term. Is that even, it's like a combination of, is Negro about? Can you not say the word? I don't know the rules. I know you can't say the other N word, but she seems to have combined them both. The sellout N-wordos that sold our people into slavery. That's what she's comparing Daniel Cameron, the district attorney, to. A black slave trader who saved his own skin by selling out his fellow black people from Africa into slavery. Lovely, lovely.
to slavery.
She said it.
And helped white men to capture our people, to abuse them and to traffic them while our women were raped, while our men were raped by savages. That is who you are, Daniel Cameron. You are a coward. You are a sellout. And you were used by the system to harm your own mama, your own black mama. We have no respect for you. No respect for your black skin. Because all of our skin folk ain't our kin folk. And you do not belong to black people at all.
All of our kinfolk, all of our skin folk ain't kinfolk. I'm gonna start using that one. The white people that I disagree with. All of our skin folk ain't kinfolk. Lovely lady. So she's mad at the world, clearly, and she is a ratchet, a racist, just a despicable, vile human being. Also on her show, that came on with them, is a gentleman named Talbert Swan. Talbert Swan was in Ratchet Madness last year. We all remember Talbert Swan, don't we? He is the fake bishop from Springfield, who is, he's like a Trump reply guy. He just responds to Trump all the time, or he did back when he was allowed on Twitter. And you go to his page and it's just so racist. All the things this guy says. He says of Candace Owens, "No thanks, I'm on a no coon diet." So he calls black people, he doesn't like coons. Who cares? This is what he said about Nicholas Sandman. "Who cares that a MAGA hat wearing privileged little white supremacist in training who mocks Native Americans is contemplating the march, is complimenting the March for Life speech of a seasoned bigot who has paid for dozens of his mistress's abortions. So this is the kid that was falsely accused of, doing whatever, smiling at that crazy Native American guy. Remember him? Yeah. However, he's also kind of a homophobe. He wrote this book called Closing the Closet, Testimonies of Deliverance from Homosexuality. This was back when conversion therapy was still a thing. Yeah, he's a big, and that's like the worst kept secret in liberal circles, is the most resistant demographic to LGBTQIA plus NWA groups is can't say it, but they look like Talbert Swan. Yeah, a little bit homophobic, traditionally speaking. So he this guy, if you speak your belief that homosexuality is a sin, you're labeled as a homophobic, even if your actions aren't. Yeah, that's nice. And Trump supporters are traveling with nooses and bleach, looking to he fell for the Jussie Smollett hoax. I love this. He's been sued a bunch of times. Okay, he went to jail for larceny. He had a lien placed on his home because he owes $82,000 in child support. What an absolute ratchet this guy is. He calls white people mayo dripping. That's his favorite insult for us white folk. And yeah, so these are the two people who are going to interview the mother of Mikayla Miller. Okay. And the mother of Mikayla Miller was arrested in March of 2020 for beating her. Now, the Boston Globe originally said she was beaten with a bat. They have since changed that to beaten with a hat. Good job, Boston Herald. Same thing. Hat, bat, same impact, right? So it's unclear what the correct answer is, but Andy No has been messaging me about this. Actually, he wanted to know today, was it a hat or a bat? And I'm like, I think it's a hat. But how do you hit someone with a hat? Like, you swat flies with it. What are you going to do with a hat? Anyway, let's watch some of this interview, shall we? Because there's some interesting moments on it. This was on Tamika Mallory's IG page. Oh, let's watch.
We'll be taking a text.
Yeah.
Let me change the volume.
You'll be with my girl Dorinda, Kojic.
Yes.
Got a Christ on. So it's going to be powerful, I'm sure.
Jamal would put me in that type of position. And just for those folks who are just tuning in, or you may not have seen the post that I put up on my page on this Sunday at New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Lithonia, Georgia. I will be the Mother's Day speaker, and it is my first.
In the synopsis, Mikayla Miller, 16-year-old honor student.
So let's correct all the mistakes.
Athlete at Hopkinton High School in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Hopkinton is a town in eastern Massachusetts that's 99% white. It's Mayberry for real.
For real.
And so
what the hell is Mayberry?
The very limited
Black
population or population outside of the Caucasian population. When this heinous act happened, of course, it's been reported that she was jumped by 5 white kids.
Wrong.
Prior to that happening, identified all of those kids. And then she went out later on that evening, just kind of to collect herself. And they found her the next morning, as you say, tied to a tree with a belt around her neck. The immediate response
the Andy Griffith
that
show
came out was that it was a suicide, even before any type of a thorough investigation. The Middlesex District Attorney, Marian Ryan, has been highly disrespectful to the family, not keeping them in the loop on anything, calling press conferences and only contacting them moments before. And basically what we're pushing for right now is an independent investigation. We need other eyes on this case. We cannot trust the Hopkinton Police Department. There are rumors that are out. They haven't substantiated them yet, but that some of the kids may be connected to police officers.
He is careful with his words.
Thing
there
smells like a cover-up.
Oh, smells like
it. And so we've got to get independent eyes and push for justice for this young lady. So Tito Jackson, who is a former Boston.
So yeah, I want to address this comment because this is a good comment, and I tweeted about this yesterday. Like, if this was an actual murder investigation, the mother would be the prime suspect. Do they not realize that? The mother has been arrested for assaulting the child before. She was the last person to see her alive. She never reported her missing, which is extremely suspicious. And her own belt was found around her neck. That belt belonged to the mother. I guess this girl like never wore clothing that required belts. She was like she was like a tomboy or whatever. She played sports and shit. She's like me. She wore a lot of elastic waistbands. Okay. I don't wear a lot of belts either. I feel you. So go on.
City councilor, a former candidate for mayor, organizer in the area, a good friend and brother, has been taking the lead on this. He and Monica Cannon Grant, another organizer in the Boston area.
Well, let's find them real quick and bring them on since you, and also, I think Mikayla's mother, you should be able to find her too. So if you give me a second, I will look them up. Oh, sometimes these try to get before I, there we are.
There we go.
I was trying to do it from my laptop, but I noticed that I couldn't.
Yes, ma'am. Yep, it has to be from your telephone. First of all, before I attempt to go and bring Tito in, I just want to say that I'm so sorry about the loss of your daughter.
She'll be fine.
My sincere condolences go out to you, and it's unfortunate that we have to ask you at this time to come on and talk about this issue. I know how hard I work with mothers every day, and I know how hard it is to have to continue to relive and continue to tell the story. And so,
definitely want to get him on, and Monica, if possible.
They wanted to get Monica.
Sure.
I don't think Monica makes it.
I can do them as soon as we finish talking with Mom. Now, I think if you disconnect this thing, I don't know exactly how to do that. The details surrounding that incident, and now what have you heard from law enforcement about what about?
She got no license, by the way.
So on April 17th, the evening of April 17th, my daughter came home from the clubhouse, which she typically goes to daily. It's in our apartment complex. And she came home and she said that 5 kids came and they jumped her inside of the clubhouse and they beat her up. And they sat outside after they beat her up for 20 minutes, antagonizing her, which made her stay in the clubhouse until they left.
That's a lie.
And after they left, she came home and I called the police. I called the police at approximately 7:16 p.m. And asked them to come to my house because there had been an incident. They took the report. We gave them all the names of the children, all 5 names. Two of them were actually 18, so they're not kids. They're adults. And the 2 adults were males, 2 adult males. They took the report. They saw that my daughter had a swollen lip. She had a blackened eye. And they took all of that, all the information, and they said that they would go and speak with one of the kids that were involved, which lived close by us. The other 4 kids didn't live in the town. They lived somewhere else. After speaking with them, I didn't hear anything back from the police. So I just assumed that I would hear back from them maybe tomorrow, right. I mean, like the next day or something, right. Like with a follow-up. So around maybe like 9:30, maybe 9:45, I went to bed. And, my daughter was still in the house around 9:30. So 9:45, I went to bed. I'm assuming Mikayla left the house, maybe to take a walk or whatever, however the case may be. I don't know what the reason was. She left, and when she left that night, that was...
So what time did you wake up? That's what I want to know. Because she was alerted to this at 9. So she went to bed at 9:45. A little bit early. Interesting. But whatever. It's a Friday, right?
I didn't notice that she left the house. The next morning...
That seems fake. Like this...
the police came to my house around maybe 9, a little after 9 o'clock. And they told me, specifically, they came into my house and they said, your daughter left the house last night and she went into the woods and she hung herself. That was the exact words.
Like, so I'm sorry, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. You went to bed at 9:45. That was 11 hours and 15 minutes ago. How long did you freaking sleep? And I'm sorry, if you went to bed and your child was there, sophomore in high school, and then you wake up and your child is no longer there, what would a responsible parent do? They would contact the police. They would do something. They'd be asking, like, they'd be furiously calling her cell phone, something. No. She just wakes up, cops come to the door, like, yeah, your kid hung himself. And she's like, oh my God. Not like my kid's dead. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying she hung herself. No way she hung herself. God, she's horrible. Go on.
Wow.
Wow.
Let me ask you this. First of all, I'm just
so
I'm
close,
a mother,
right?
And I can't imagine. I'm so very sorry. After the people, we won't say other kids anymore, but after the people jumped her on the day before,
she wasn't jumped.
Was she visibly bruised?
Alive. She got in a fight with her girlfriend.
Yes, yeah. She had a swollen lip and she had a blackened eye. And they from what I thought, they noted that down in their report, which we see there was no report in the end. And if she was
so there was no
murdered,
report. So at this point, right today,
there would be signs of a struggle
that she's dead,
which there was not.
They don't have a report in the files that shows.
And they're so hung up on this. There's no report.
There was no police log of me calling. And calling 911. There was also no police log of her being found in the woods.
So, like, who cares? Like, how is that germane to any of this? What are they suggesting by that?
My understanding.
How does that
the location
increase the chances that they were murdered?
They're claiming they found her is not the actual location, and that they have not even interviewed the persons who live near that location. Where she was actually found.
And they actually requested for the police to come and talk to them. And they have not spoke with them. No.
That's a good point.
So let me just be clear about this. They say she was found in one place, but now you all have found out that she was found somewhere totally different.
Correct.
So by the time you are informed of this, is it because she has identification on her? How do they know that she's your daughter when they contact you?
That's a good question, actually.
That's a good question because...
probably because there's not that many,
I don't know.
Black people in Hopkins.
Okay.
Or maybe she I don't know.
She had her... Well, they never said that to me. Okay.
It's a small town. People know each other.
Supposedly, she had her school ID. I don't know. I don't recall that, so...
Okay, so she may have had her school ID. They contact you, and they moved her body before you were able to go see her. They didn't come and get you and say, something happened there.
Did you want to leave her?
Already moved. Okay.
Suspended from the tree.
How many hours went by between when she was moved and when you found out about what happened?
And she was found at 7:30. She found out at 9.
Well, they came to my house after 9.
Oh, now it's after
and
9.
I'm
Okay.
learning new information that from the people whose house is located next to where she was found, that the police had actually arrived there at 7 o'clock, which is not what they said. They said that they found her at 7:45.
Who cares? Who gives a shit?
From according to
this is what you're getting hung up on.
People who live next door said is that they removed her around 10:30.
So she's the detective now. She's speaking to the.
At that moment, when they came to my house, they said she had already been moved from the scene.
Did you want to keep her hanging there?
Okay, so you had no idea why they jumped, why these other kids. We on this particular platform. We want to be careful not to say that those particular individuals were involved without us having any such evidence, right?
Oh yeah, we wouldn't want to do that.
I don't believe, from everything that I've read and from conversations that we've had, that she just went out and committed suicide. Obviously, you don't believe that. And I'm going to ask you to just, talk about your daughter. And do you think that, do you feel that there was anything about her that would give you the impression, and I know we already know the answer, that she would have committed suicide, but the question that I see coming up a lot from folks is, do you know why these kids would have jumped, or these people would have jumped her? Did she tell you there was trouble before? What was the reason, and who monitors the clubhouse? Are there cameras in the clubhouse? Do you know any of that?
There are cameras in the clubhouse, but they were there after the leasing office closes. So the leasing office is inside of the clubhouse, but they close usually like around 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock. So they were there after that time. But to answer your question about why, there is no why, because there's no reason. It shouldn't have happened. But my daughter had a relation with a particular girl.
Okay.
And they broke up.
Yeah.
So from my understanding,
she was depressed.
When my daughter came home, she said she had contacted this girl's mother and said, I have some of her items. Can you pick them up? I have some of her sweaters specifically.
Okay. And according to the mother, that's not what happened. But
my understanding, I don't know if the mother passed the information to the girl, or I don't know. I wasn't there, so that's a speculation. But instead of the mother coming to pick up the items, the girl came with 4 of her friends.
Because they were in town hanging out.
And then they assaulted my daughter in the clubhouse.
No, they did not.
At that point, they knew that Mikayla was by herself in the clubhouse.
So what?
So there is no why, there's no reason why they did that. They did it because they wanted to ambush her.
Oh my God.
They felt she.
So think of all the lies she's telling, right? They did not go there to, they were hanging out all that day. The kids were from North Brookfield. They were hanging out. This was a pit stop to pick up her shit. Why would the girl text the mother and be like, come pick up your daughter's shit? No, she wanted Caitlin to come to the clubhouse so that she could continue to have a conversation with her. Like, she wasn't ready for this relationship to end. She wanted to talk her into it still. This happened a million times. And Caitlin said no. She started freaking out. She trashed the place, banged her head on the pool table, had a breakdown, had a mental health breakdown, and Caitlin punched her. And that was the totality of all. The other kids broke it up and they got the hell out of there. That's it. And this woman is just making up lies. She's just lying. And think about, how did they kill her? Tell me how this worked out. So they, hours later, they came back and they lured her out. What did they lure her out of the house with? And they're like, hey, come down to the busiest road in town, the road that literally the Boston Marathon is on, and we're just going to lynch you right here on Main Street. That's what we do. 5 of us. Don't put up a struggle or anything, because we can't have any signs of a struggle, because then people will know that it's a murder. So don't do that. What? This is the fucking mother. Unbelievable.
Was in a vulnerable space, because she was by herself.
Oh.
So
let me ask you this question. It's also my understanding that the police department was discouraging you from asking any questions beyond their explanation that it was a suicide, and even went to the point of threatening to reveal her sexual orientation, as if that would have made a difference.
I mean, I never met this girl. I knew she was a lesbian. It's not a big deal.
If you went public with your consternation about the lack of transparency and the spin that they were putting on this.
Exactly. To answer that, the sergeant and the detective involved went beyond that. They used a lot of scare tactics for me not to just not go to the media, but not even to question their conclusion. They made up a lot of lies about my daughter.
What lies?
And about what happened that night. And they based that on the other girls' portrayal of what happened that night. However, yes, the sergeant from the State Troopers Barracks, Sergeant O'Brien, specifically told me not to go to the media, because if I go to the media, then my daughter's sexuality would be exposed.
Thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate that.
Now the district attorney denies that they had concluded it was a suicide, but somehow, some way, that got out in the press, and it wasn't until there was pressure put on by outside sources about doing a thorough investigation and rejecting this notion of a suicide that she decided to announce that the investigation was still open. Otherwise, she would have gone along with the conclusion of the Hopkinton police and buried this altogether.
I'm with Megan Moore. Like,
absolutely.
Cop would ever say that.
And the conclusion was made at the scene. And what at the scene means a lot of things, because we yet to know what that scene means. There's still a lot of information unraveling that I'm also getting from outside sources.
It's another great question.
The sergeant looked me in my eyes and said, "Why don't you believe me? I've been on the force for 19 years.
I believe the cop said that.
This was a suicide."
Right.
Well, did you conduct an investigation?
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. She just doesn't want to admit.
What makes you believe that my daughter committed suicide? How did she get tied to a tree and she's standing straight on her feet with her head pulled back with a belt around her neck? What about that makes you believe that she committed suicide?
The fact that it was tied around her neck.
But they had no explanation. They didn't try to give an explanation. They just told me to believe their word.
They're probably like, "Are you retarded?" Serious question. Like, are you?
Let me ask now. You're a resident of Hopkinton. I'm familiar with the area. There are not a lot of people that look like you and I in that town. What has been your experience with racism in Hopkinton?
That is a very good question.
Let me guess. She was profiled.
Just on Easter Sunday, I was at my family's house and we were discussing my experience in Hopkinton. And I let them know the moment I moved there in 2018. And in that 1 year of 2018, I was pulled over 5 times by the Hopkinton Police Department and the state troopers.
Not paying attention.
And when I say pulled over, 3 of the times I was just sitting in my car.
Oh, she was pulled over for sitting in her car.
On those occasions, they asked me, "What are you doing here?
How do you get pulled over?
Whose car is this?" You know, one time there's an inlet outside of my community where people go fishing. And I went there, I parked my car there and I was sitting there. And I guess the police saw me go and sit in that inlet. And what they did was they came and parked at the end, exit way, and waited for me to exit.
This is
and then
comical.
Pulled me over.
This is like
and
insane.
I asked him, "Why are you pulling me over?" And he said, well, because you were in there. What were you doing in there? So in that moment, a state trooper came and he said, oh, I ran her plate yesterday. So, basically what they were saying is, yeah, they were profiling me.
Shocking.
And a couple of people had told me that I should have filed a complaint a long time ago.
Thank you, Brian Looney. Thank you for the Cash App donation. By the way, if you want a Cash App, it's $.
My experience in Hopkinton hasn't been the greatest. So with that, those things happening in that first year, it did make me feel like I didn't even want to venture into the town. When they told me they knew my car, I felt like
she's not good at lying.
They were watching me. It's a small town of 16,000 people.
Let me ask you this question. What has been the response from the community since it has now gotten out in the media that your daughter was found dead?
I would say it's divided. I would say that
some people believe you because they're stupid.
There's half
other
of them
people have a brain.
Want to preserve this image of this very safe and welcoming town, and then there's another half who actually want to stand for what's right.
What's right?
And
oh my God.
I think that's expected in these small communities.
The way she talks too, it's like
a state like Massachusetts, which is I believe 86% white. They had an emergency meeting.
She's definitely on Amazon
because
Prime
we were having a visual for my daughter, and the DA came on to the meeting and put out fallacies.
No, she
she didn't even fact check.
What?
She just, I don't even want to say assumptions. She just regurgitated information that somebody else told her, or maybe she looked up and didn't fact check first. And then the side that was,
what is she talking about?
With the DA and the conclusion that my daughter's committed suicide were then now felt validated that that's what happened, and there was no crime committed in their town.
And they called the emergency select board meeting because Black folks were getting ready to converge upon.
Because Monica Cannon Grant was coming to town.
Been murdered or potentially murdered in the town. The emergency meeting was about, oh my God, Black people are getting ready to come here.
Right.
And now this happened
on
April what
Andy
day?
No has reached out
17th.
April 17th.
No, I don't mind.
Bishop,
I don't mind when it's good information like that. I'm getting information on Hopkins right now as we speak.
Weeks, even months. If you look at Breonna Taylor, are going by before before there's anything done about these instances. And so where are we now? What is happening now? And maybe Bishop, you can help answer so we can get Tito and Miss Monica
Swan.
to be a part of the conversation. Where are we?
I think Monica doesn't like Tamika Mallory.
We need to put boots on the ground there in Hopkinton. Because we will, but we just need to know from you all what you want us to do.
Do you need us to put boots on the ground in Hopkinton? That's a threat.
The important thing now
because we will
to push.
And by by the way, this is why Monica doesn't like Tamika Mallory,
Middlesex district attorney, to recuse herself from this case. She's pretty much.
And that's the other thing. Like, you're gonna get Marian Ryan to recuse herself, but based on what? She's the district attorney. This is literally her job, is to investigate murders in her own town. It's her job. And what? Who's going to take over? Who's going to be in charge? The independent investigator? Who's that? Who? Who's the person you're hiring? 1-800 detective? Good Lord. They just make shit up.
Wrecked her credibility in terms of there being any level of trust by the community or by the family, that there will be any transparency in this case. And so we need an independent investigation, and whether that's more
want
Haley's
Rollins.
office,
I think that's
the
what you're
Attorney
right.
General, or whether that comes from the feds, or wherever it comes from. But we cannot depend on any investigation by this district attorney and by this police department. I think that's the most important thing in order for us to get justice for this family. Is she's got to be out of the case altogether.
Why?
Okay, so that's where we're starting, is right there. And Mom, what can we do for you? How can folks be supportive?
I believe that if people continue to push this, then we will continue to find answers.
What? What does that mean?
She doesn't even know. For Mikayla is not going to stop at yesterday's rally or visual. Finding justice for Mikayla is going to come from people pushing this, pushing the narrative.
What does this mean?
This is not right. You know, it is not right for a young Black girl to be found in the woods and then just be deemed,
suicidal.
It was a suicide.
And the kids, though, the people, that jumped her the day before are all white kids. I just want to, a few people have asked it. All of
one
them.
was Puerto Rican.
And I want to clarify, it wasn't the day before. She died hours after this happened.
Right, because she left the house.
This was hours after. And there are a lot of things in the background that I probably can't share right now, but this is hours after. And my biggest issue is they didn't even bring those kids in to question them. And
yes,
Sergeant
they did.
Brian said to me specifically,
all 5 kids have been
we don't investigate fights between teenagers.
Right. They don't. They don't.
Really? Yeah.
If it was an assault, if it was an assault of 5 Black teenagers,
right,
on a white teenager, they would investigate it. Not only that, each of those teenagers would be locked up. Their names would be plastered all over the media.
But 5 people didn't jump her.
Everywhere else. And we really
one person punched her.
The names of these kids and their family connections, because I think that's going to take.
He goes, we need the names of the kids and their family connections.
Exactly why this is being covered up.
So now, I mean, Talbert Swan will put a kid's name out there. He put Nick Sandman's name out there. Remember, that's his thing.
Understanding is some of these young people may have connection to police officers. So whatever their connection is, I think that will reveal a lot in terms of the vociferousness of these folk to cover this particular incident up.
Yeah, and I have a problem, Swan, with the use of the language fight. This is not a fight. A fight is you and I have a fight. Okay, it's an assault, an attack. It is abuse.
Oh my
God. And it is criminal.
Oh my God.
For there to be a group of individuals, and now we're learning at least 2 of them, 18 years old,
Tamika Mallory's
to
voice
physically attack a minor.
Such trash.
So the language that's being used is all, it shows you what they're trying to do.
They actually said that Black people don't hang themselves.
What we continuously say is it's the cover up for me, right? It's the fact that if there's nothing to hide, open it up, do the investigation. Have they even brought the kids in or the people in?
Let them knife fight.
Question them.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they have.
In their families, have they searched their homes the way that
they
took
their
ours?
phones?
I mean, this is, and we know what would have happened, to your point, Bishop, if it had been a group of Black people who went out and assaulted a minor.
A group of white kids did not assault a minor.
Our hearts are with you. This has been going on for some time for you. So I can imagine that it feels good to have people that are now paying attention, but also it's tiring, you know, and I know that I'm sure you have family and people who've been there. And of course, Tito, who I'm going to meet, I'm very excited to hear from him. And
I bet
Monica,
you are.
two people who have been told
Tito tweeted
by
about this.
Bishop are standing with you. And thank God you have folks that are out there advocating for you. But we want to see that the entire community would get out and would become a part of this. Bishop Swan knows exactly what to do. He's starting to call people. He put his NAACP hat on and start making phone calls to get people involved. And the one thing about us, you know, in my organization, Until Freedom, we don't let it go. We're going to stay on it. We're going to be talking about it constantly.
Great.
We're going to stay in contact with you and all the individuals who are helping to advocate for you.
So if you think the story is going away,
has been said by ACC 616, that her story goes viral. We want to make sure that we use our
I've made sure
resources to get you on every platform possible to talk about this. Now, the last question that I have is, does Mikayla have other sisters and brothers?
Here's an interesting one.
And other young people that we also need to be keeping in our prayers. I saw one of her friends has already come on and said that she loved you. She called you mom and said that Mikayla was one of her very good friends. I'm sure all of her friends have been impacted by this.
Yes. Yeah. She has an older brother. Who is 24. And he's very broken over this.
And what was the other guy's name? I wrote his name down. The other one. That was an interesting lie.
Yeah, she has an older brother that she was close to.
Everything she says sounds like
I do
unsure.
Want to make some clarifications while I'm on here, if you don't mind.
Please.
Dwayne and Calvin.
I just want to clarify some contradictory information that was put out there.
Oh, please do. Calvin just me.
One of them is when I met with Sergeant O'Brien, and I mentioned Sergeant O'Brien because he is a big part of this. Once we had reported that my daughter had been jumped by several kids, these 5 kids, which all names were given to the police. When we met with Sergeant O'Brien and he said that he spoke with my daughter's girlfriend, she said that when they came to my community, that the 4 other kids sat in the car while she went inside.
That
and
did happen.
Her and Mikayla had an altercation.
Right, that's what happened.
Which is untrue.
How do you know? You weren't there.
When Marian Ryan went on, she then said, jumped Mikayla.
What? Huh?
Alongside Mikayla's girlfriend. That is one thing. I just want to put some clarifying things out there.
Oh, okay.
Also about the steps. Now they're trying to create.
She's this thing again.
They're trying to convince that other 50% that this is a suicide. So they use certain word salad and wordplay without being direct to make people draw that conclusion. For instance, they said they tracked her phone. They had her phone, and her phone tracked her walking 1,316 steps to the place where she was found, and then her phone stopped.
Yeah.
Now, the clarification part is, I had Mikayla's primary phone, which was active.
Primary phone?
The phone that Mikayla had on her was her old iPhone, which did not have cellular data or a SIM card.
Why does this girl have burner phones?
I'm assuming when she left the house, she went to the clubhouse where she could get Wi-Fi and then contact whomever, share her location with whomever. However, when she left the complex, she no longer has Wi-Fi. So her tracks could not be.
She has data.
Her steps can be traced. Right.
Data
traced.
What?
And so that I
if
didn't.
You don't have Wi-Fi. You can't use your phone
in a way where I didn't have direct facts. I contacted Apple directly just to confirm.
1-800 Apple.
If you do not
Hello?
have cellular data nor Wi-Fi, can your steps be tracked? And they said no, and they sent me the information.
Of course they did. Of course they did. I'll take things that never happened for $500, please.
That in itself, that one piece of information in itself shows that they are trying so hard to create this narrative and to make people believe that my daughter took her own life.
Because she did. What's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with telling the truth?
Even if her steps were tracked, that doesn't determine what direction she went into.
Oh.
It doesn't determine whether she went somewhere and got into a car with someone. However, the fact remains that her steps were not tracked, and she was very adamant and said with conviction that it was in her phone. Now, when she was confronted,
I haven't listened to this whole thing.
The facts that Mikayla's phone did not have data, nor did it have Wi-Fi. She said, "Well, we calculated from the residence to where she was, and that's the number we came up with." However, on camera, she said adamantly that they had it in her phone. I guess assuming that nobody would do the research.
Had what in her phone?
To debunk what she said.
Anyone even know what she's talking about? What is she talking
about? The reality is what they're used to is the police putting out a statement and that community believing whatever it is that the police have to say.
Right. That's right.
We understand as Black people in general that police don't always tell the truth. And that you cannot believe and take at face value any and everything that they have to say. And I think this is rocking this community that wants to continue to be perceived, as you stated, as this safe, welcoming place.
Because it is.
Yet and still, you've experienced it. Other Black folks have experienced it. I used to work in Hopkinton, which is the reason I asked about your experience with racism there. So I'm very familiar with being profiled and followed and harassed in that town, Hopkinton, Woburn, all that entire area.
Hopkinton, Woburn are nowhere near each other.
We understand the difference in terms of they see the police as friends and allies, and we see them for what they really are.
What they really are.
Right.
What a piece of shit. What an absolute asshole.
Also, one thing I want to address is 4 days after Mikayla's death, they confirmed that they hadn't talked to any of the kids.
That's a lie. That's a lie. They were spoken to. You know how we know that's a lie?
However,
we have text messages on April 22nd from the girl saying, everybody thinks I'm a murderer. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? District
Attorney Marian Ryan was very clear that they had spoken with all of them.
They did.
Which was not true.
How do you know that's not true? What are you talking about?
She also said that on Monday,
this woman's so fucking awful.
Mikayla was found on Sunday. She said that next Monday that she was in contact with me. She was not. I heard from the district attorney from Suffolk District Attorney. She contacted me on Sunday. She called me personally. I hadn't heard from Marian Ryan until pressure started to, go to her office and people began to contact her.
So you heard from Rachael Rollins.
The day before, I heard from Rachael Rollins, and I talked to Rachael Rollins several times.
See, that's the part. Like, why the fuck is Rachael Rollins reaching out to her before her daughter's body's even cold yet? She had already found out somehow. I mean, somebody in Hopkinton has Rachael Rollins on speed dial. It's not her. Somebody else does. Finds out she's dead. Is like, call up Rachael Rollins. And Rachael Rollins tells her, is like communicating with her. What would she say? Several times? I think was the language she used.
Began to contact her.
So you heard from Rachael Rollins
the day before I heard from Rachael Rollins, and
Before
I
you
talked to
heard.
Rachael Rollins several times.
Several times.
And
Why?
and Rachael Rollins forwarded my information to Marian on that Sunday. And I didn't hear from Marian until the Thursday before my daughter's service.
Like that right there, the fact that Rachael Rollins contacted this one. Why are you interfering in another district attorney's crime scene? What are you doing talking to this person several times? And this is what Rachael Rollins does. I did a blog on it yesterday. Like, she's shady. She's so covert like that, like below, like she's like one of the biggest liars and sneak thieves I've ever seen in my life. The way she handled that whole road rage thing, obviously, but the Rayla Campbell thing is what I like. When I'm like, Rayla's telling me like Rachael Rollins like thinks we're friends or something. She's like texting me information about Monica. I'm like, okay, cool. I use it, but don't get it twisted. You suck too. Like, just this isn't like an enemy of my enemy is my friends thing. Yeah. To me, that should be I hope Marian Ryan files a complaint. And here I am defending Marian Ryan. I never thought it'd see the
day before my daughter's service. However, the way she explained it in her 24-hour press conference is that she had been in constant communication. Her office had been in constant communication with me or a representative, she said. However, it's not until the last week or so that she had been in contact. She's contacted me once, and that was on that Thursday. And after that, she had been in contact with a representative of mine only to see what she can do to make me stop the rally from proceeding on May 6th.
Give us your next. Go ahead and give us your next point.
She doesn't have a point
because we don't want to lose them. Go ahead.
She has no points. So
well, I mean,
have nothing to say.
My biggest issue is, as you guys stated earlier, had 5 Black kids came to a white girl's house, jumped her, and then she was found dead several hours later. There wouldn't even be an interview. They would have all been brought into the precinct.
This is all they have is this hypothetical about if they were Black.
And charged by now.
And charged.
That's it. Like, that's the totality of the evidence.
They would have been charged with the previous assault, just so they can keep them and hold them until they can charge them.
That's literally all they have is this hypo. If they were Black, they would have been
my daughter or that child.
Child, please.
So my biggest thing is, you have you have all of the kids' names, you have all their information. Why haven't their phones been subpoenaed? Why haven't why haven't they been brought into a precinct and interrogated?
They were.
Why haven't the primary person, which is my daughter's girlfriend, been
who's that? What's that about? Tell me, go upstairs.
Interviewed. Why hasn't her phone been subpoenaed? Why haven't there been due diligence?
That's right.
They have
investigation. That's all you have.
Why hasn't there been an investigation? Because they had no intention to investigate it.
And still don't.
From the beginning. And they still don't. Now what they're doing is putting out crumbs and things just to make people assume or make people believe that they're doing something. But they are not doing or digging deep as they should.
You know this because the neighbors are telling you that nobody even came to talk to them. And they live right there in the community. So you would think that you would start, first of all, with going to the people who might have some information about, what happened in their own neighborhood.
Well, where my daughter was found was on someone's property, and they could see my daughter. And they asked, why didn't the cops come and talk to us?
What?
And there's a lot of.
She's like, oh,
this is
the
more
neighbors
information
are
that
experts.
I'm receiving. that
What was there
I
to
can't
talk
share
about?
right now,
Yeah,
but
you
they're
shouldn't.
asking,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
they're
That's right.
asking,
Can't share
why
that.
haven't they talked to us?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to say to her.
names.
This is beautiful.
They have timelines because I've given them that, and they haven't looked into any of that.
They took tape from a
The
Wendy's
only
in
thing they're
Sturbridge.
focused on, and from the beginning, I felt like, is they were trying to portray my daughter as the aggressor, which they actually said.
She
How
trashed
can
the
my daughter
clubhouse.
be the aggressor if these kids came to my house? They came to her
to pick
and
up
they
clothes.
came there with a mission to beat her up.
To pick up clothes.
So
They came
there's
to
no
pick-
way that she's the aggressor.
You literally
She
said
wouldn't
that.
be the aggressor against 5 people anyhow.
No matter what.
No matter what.
And
Oh,
especially if at least 2 people are 18 years old, she's not the aggressor just because she's a minor in that situation. So, I mean, there's
Yes,
so
she
much
could be,
that
but that's
I'm hearing
not
you
the point.
say that makes me, you know, it smells funny. It smells funny. It definitely
It doesn't though.
It smells like, you know, at least, even if I know, Bishop, you said that there's potentially relationships between some of the individuals and police and law enforcement. But even if it's not that, I think that where there's that mom spoke about the central issue is that they don't want the town to be tainted by what took place, and they want to try to cover it up so that they can, you know, not allow this story to be the story of what took place there and what happened to a young Black girl. And so, but that's not okay.
It's not okay.
Whatever happened, it needs to be dealt with, and we're not going to stop until some real, true investigation happens. And to your point, Bishop, I understand clearly why this particular district attorney needs to recuse herself.
What?
And there needs to be an independent person brought in to look at this case.
The 2 18-year-olds, if I'm correct, were men, correct?
No.
Correct.
No. They were.
Imagine
The 18-year-olds were
men.
girls. That's a lie.
A white teenage girl.
That's a lie.
Imagine if that were the case.
And even if they sat in the car, let's just say, which I don't believe that at all.
Oh, okay.
Let's just say they sat in the car.
I don't believe that.
We know for Black folks, it's guilt by association. It's conspiracy that we all went up there. And if one person went in the house and beat somebody up and harmed them, then everybody who got in the ride to go over to the scene becomes a part of the investigation and potentially a part of the criminality.
She got punched in the face once.
To your point,
they're not charging
they
the
like
others
to talk to us like we're
as
stupid.
accessories.
And the same story, they keep doing the same thing over and over again, as if we're not smart enough to start asking.
You're definitely not smart enough.
And like we
You're
don't have
definitely not
lawyers
smart enough.
and investigators and other people who can listen and hear,
Yes. Bring the lawyers
information and be able to discern what we believe is the truth or not. and I love what you said. There just like there's a divide in America.
Winch is on fire these days.
Half the people were supporters of someone that we didn't support this conference. I don't know who you supported, Miss Calvina. I'm talking about me and Bishop. Half of the people in your town also are folks that say we're not supporting a young girl being killed and no one doing anything about it. And those are the people that we have to lean on in this time that know right is right and wrong is wrong. There is a clear divide in this nation, but there are many people who have good.
I don't even think Tamika Mallory was paying attention to the words she said. I really think she was on Etsy.
Wrong. And just as sure as we are all sitting here talking today, the truth will come out.
It already has.
Definitely come out.
But you're right.
Let me say this, and then I'm going to move out the way. Hopefully, we can get Tito and Monica on. Let's just say, for argument's sake, and I don't believe this, Mom, to save my life. I don't believe your daughter's death was by a suicide. But for argument's sake, let's say it was a suicide, and she had gotten harassed and bullied and beaten up by 5 white people just hours before that, including 2 grown men.
Lie.
The entire spin on this incident, if she were a white girl, even if she had taken her own life, would be that harassment, that bullying, that brutality, that trauma that she experienced was a precursor, was a catalyst, was something that led to her ultimate demise, whether it was by suicide or by other means. And so they be pushing a completely different narrative.
That's all they are. If they were black.
Absolutely.
The entire country would be in an uproar, and corporations would be doubling down on their bullying, anti-bullying, suicide support. They would have ads running on TV. If you feel that you're being targeted, bullied, or you're feeling sad,
and we could be doing
all this number.
Thank you.
We have people to help you. There is no way that there would not be a full-fledged campaign to talk about this young sister in a positive way, to uplift her, to talk about how because of her being bullied and being harmed, she went out and took her own life. So we know that, again, it's the cover-up. It's the fact that Black life is not valued.
She makes a good point there. She literally makes my point. Like, yes, if this was being treated as a suicide, which it was, there would be resources going and the conversation would revolve around like that. Yes, that's what should be happening right now. But you dumb fuck assholes are out here pretending it was a suicide. God.
Even when it's very clear that
it's almost over, I
something here
promise.
happened, and we need to know what it is.
We need to know.
I'm really grateful again that you all took the time to come and talk with me tonight. I'm actually running to a dinner, but on my way, I'd love to be able to get Tito to come in and talk with me, Mom. And so I want you to, I want to say to you that we're going to be with you. We are with you. We will stay with you, and we're going to be talking about this. If we have your permission to speak about this case everywhere we go, we're going to be talking about Mikayla Miller, because she deserves justice and she deserves advocates who are out here saying.
I would like to point out that this was like 4 or 5 days ago, this thing, and then I put out the story about the text messages and stuff like that. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. I would like to point out, I think it's been 5 days since this video went up, that to me, I just did a search for it on Twitter under both of their names. Neither Talbert Swan nor Tamika Mallory has mentioned the name Mikayla Miller since this video came out. So they're not actually going to do anything because Tamika Miller's got to go to a dinner. This is just another thing. Like, I really don't think she was paying attention at all. All she just wanted to say was the generic, like, if they were black. Yep. That's all. That's literally all she had. I don't think she listened to a word this woman said. I think even Tamika Mallory is listening to him like, man, this lady's like literally retired. Something's wrong with her.
Her name.
I want you to do that, and I appreciate that you are willing to do that. And I think
it was a 2-hour opt-out.
Our prayers are with you, Mom, and in any and everything we can do to continue this fight.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch. Thank you, and please try to have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you.
So, Bishop, I know what I hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what I hear. It sounds to me like somebody knows something and they don't want us to know.
What?
Absolutely.
What are you talking about?
They want to keep the slate clean. They want to keep Pleasantville with its, reputation.
Thought it was
they don't want it tainted. They're more afraid of being labeled as a racist town than they care about the death of a young Black teenager.
No, they're more worried about being labeled a racist town than they are being a racist town.
Yeah, absolutely.
They want to cover up the truth that this is what we see. We know. Well, I think you said it best. Even if it was a suicide, the way it's being handled is a total disrespect to her family.
How could they have handled
it and a disregard for a young Black woman's life? Yeah. And we know how to make noise enough that they have to pay attention. So we're gonna do that.
Absolutely.
Now you got to help me find Tito. Tell him that.
All right.
I'm gonna be looking for him.
By the way,
in a few
Tito
minutes.
has not tweeted
All
about
right.
this
All right.
in 4 days
All
either.
right. You can connect me with him.
Mikayla
If
Miller
you
has
connect me
disappeared.
with him on the telephone.
So,
I
like,
can work with him on the exact time and we'll come back on.
All right.
The only one
Okay.
talking about
Thank
Mikayla
you.
Miller now
All right.
Love
are
you.
me and Monica
Love you
Cannon
too.
Grant.
Take care.
That's it. Is that the end of it?
So y'all, we, it's sad because like in these situations, it's not just like, oh, there's another one. Like this woman lost her child. And we just get so tired of constantly having to fight, just constantly having to fight. But we know we have to do it. And, I'm also really concerned that Black women are having to continue to show up strong, people and Black mothers, Black fathers. We have to keep showing up strong, looking strong. I see people in the comments saying she's so strong. And there's nothing strong about grieving the loss of your child.
Okay, I can't even, like, this is just so generic. All right, so it's completely full of shit. You saw that on there. The Rachael Rollins comment was the most telling about that. But I don't know what you guys took from that. But just listening to the mother and the way she talked, like her inability to put a sentence together, the unsure way in which she answered questions and which she spoke, and she just had nothing of substance to say. It was just wild conspiracy. She has no theory either here. Like, what is your theory about what happened to your daughter? Besides the fact that you don't believe she killed herself, like, what is your theory? And they have no theory. Everything just comes back to, if they were Black, they'd all be arrested by now. Okay. Yeah. So Andy knows messaging me right now, and he's saying that Megan Anderson doesn't want to talk to me now after she got her lawyer involved. How did you find details that Mikayla wasn't actually hanged on a tree, but rather tied to a tree? Well, it said the wording was suspended from a tree. So, and she was also standing, like her feet were stand, like, so obviously she's not hanging from, if she was like she weighed 170 pounds, the branch would break if that happened, right? If she, like the full, like, so, but I don't know. I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it. But this is just, I'm just using common sense here, right? Whatever it was sturdy enough that it could get enough leverage for her to just pull and choke the life out of herself. So anyway, that's that. Oh, news update. The Rian Waters federal lawsuit today was dismissed in federal court by Judge Mastriani. And RIP Ryan. So Facebook, Google, K. Peter never answered the lawsuit and had it dismissed anyway. So that is gone. It's dismissed. I'm sure he'll be back in some form. It was dismissed with prejudice, so they can no longer Mandarin oranges. He can't eat Mandarin oranges, so he can no longer. That's what I'm saying, right? He can no longer file any sort of motions for this or anything. So I don't know if we're done with Ryan, but it's gonna be a lot harder for him now to even come forward with something involving this. Okay. All right. Any questions you guys have or anything? Anything you want to talk about? Any questions you want to ask me? Fire away. If not, we'll call it a night. Round of oranges on the house. What about the Mandarin orange? I got sued because I was told that I could not. I was the reason he can't eat Mandarin oranges anymore. That's a new one. No, I don't think he has. I don't think he ever paid that off. Stop it with the abortion thing. All right. Anything else? I was surprised last night's show. Last night's show got a lot of views. I was not expecting that. I spoke with her attorney today too. Her attorney is the same attorney who represented Michelle Carter. I did see what happened in Plano with those Antifa taking over. That's right north of Dallas, I believe, Plano. And they were these protesters, like Antifa took over or whatever, Black Lives Matter took over a road, and the cop was just standing there and let it happen. And one guy got out of his truck, this huge fucking dude, and he's like, I'm going to pound you in the fucking face if you don't leave. He got arrested. And now the attorney general in Texas, because God bless Texas, is just like, the chief, he called out the chief of police in Plano and is like, you need to fucking enforce the law there or we will enforce it for you. The streets of Texas will not be taken over by mobs. It won't be satisfied here. Anything else, guys? It was an impromptu show. It was about I had to talk about the election, you know. I lost. Spoiler alert, but that's okay. Thoughts on this Tebow coming back to people are, you know, obviously the first thing people talk about. What about Kaepernick? Kaepernick, when he's going to get a shot? Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, he's not trying to come back as a quarterback for one. He's trying to come back as a tight end, so that's a little bit different. And I got news flash for you guys. Like, he ain't making the team. It's hard to make an NFL roster. It is. Tim Tebow's never played tight end before. He's 33 years old, right? To make it as to make an NFL roster, you have to be very, very good. A lot of good players get cut and are no longer in the league. This is just a publicity thing. Tim Tebow's not making a 53-man NFL roster. Stop it. This is just whatever. You're never going to see Tim Tebow in a regular season NFL game. It's not going to happen. By the way, I have plans on Thursday night, so we're going to do a live tomorrow night instead. So the Turtle Club is going to be pushed to next week. So because I'm still working on that, but Turtle Club is going to be pushed to next week, and I'm going to have a live show here tomorrow night instead. Go on a catch with PP Mass. I like watching them from afar. I don't need to do the catch itself. Any other questions? Stop fucking with my sketch. I don't know. I have a friend in from town. And I haven't seen him in a while, so we're going to hang out. Since you wrote about the Krakow Cracker today, the next history show be about Poland. Probably not, but okay. Let's see. You see what happened with Predator Poachers Houston? I did not know there's a franchise down there. I was not aware. I don't follow it. What did I see the protests and DC? No, I did not. I dare you to pronounce my name right. Do you like to beat the Capitals? Yes, I do. I do with Taylor Hall. I like Taylor Hall a lot. I think it's a great addition. I'm gonna be honest. I've watched 2 games this year, and nothing against hockey or whatever. I haven't watched much sports lately. Why do we back to blue if they enforce our? I mean, I would. That's a good question. I would not back the blue in a city where they let the mob take over like that. I would not. I would call it the blue. And I don't I'm not a bootlicker. I don't automatically back the cops. I was pretty critical of Hopkins and PD. No, I think I've been fair in my coverage of the police. Any other questions before we call it a night? I know. We could have gotten in hot tops with the witch doctor. Wait, they they terminated Predator main channel, so Jay is really lucky. Ooh, I didn't know didn't even know he had a contract. I didn't know it was that official. All right. So I guess we're calling an evening, guys. It's been real. Keep up the good work. I appreciate the donos tonight. Appreciate the support, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Peace, Turtle Riders.